Make sure to go and check out all of our latest merch at paddockmerch.com. We've got loads of new designs and even more products coming all the time. With 2 or more items, you get 20% off using the code Paddock20. And if you remember, there's even bigger discounts available. Link is in the description.
Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm not at Old Trafford. I'm in the studio, which means one thing. It's live. So get involved in the chat, in the comments. Let us know your thoughts on all the latest Manchester United news, which is what we'll be covering this morning. We're going to have a story about Donny van der Beek, how he's been linked with Newcastle. Newcastle obviously have a lot of money, and they're looking to spend some of it, according to reports, on Manchester United midfielder who hasn't really had much opportunities at Old Trafford, or many opportunities at Old Trafford. We'll also have a story about Gary Neville, who's been firing shots about players' social media activities. He's a bit unimpressed with the posts that some players put out, or some players' teams put out, depending on who you believe, which I kind of get, to be honest with you. There's also someone who's been left with a bit of a egg on their face regarding Marcus Rashford. When you fire shots at Marcus Rashford, you got to make sure you hit, because more often than not, you don't. And we've also got another story, a little bit of an update on the England situation as well, because unlike most games, there's not really much happening for Manchester United with England, although we have got Harry Maguire there. So we'll get into all that later on. Like I said, do give us a like, do give us a chat. Give us a chat, give us a comment, let us know what you think. And if you're not subscribing, give us a subscribe as well. So we'll start off with the Bruno Fernandes, Cristiano Ronaldo story, because those two playing for Portugal last night against Ireland drew 0-0, and there's a bit of sort of question marks. There's a few question marks on just whether these two can play together, because there's a sort of feeling that perhaps they've not quite gelled as much as we'd hoped. There's an article in The Athletic this morning talking about it, and it's saying about, the fact that Portugal more or less clung on for a draw against Ireland. Portugal had Pepe sent off, so Ireland had a few chances towards the end. It looked like they were going to win, but it ended up 0-0. And I think Portugal now, I think, is it Serbia they've got in the last this week in Lisbon to sort of make sure they go through to the World Cup. Now, it says 10 years in the article in Athletic. It speaks about Fernandes, mainly focusing on Bruno. Now, the fact it's not quite happening for him with Portugal. It says 10 of Fernandes' last 11 competitive starts for his country have ended prematurely. And only once, a 3-0 win away to Azerbaijan, missed by a suspended Ronaldo in September, as he played the full 90 minutes in this World Cup qualification campaign. He got subbed last night. I think he came off around I think it was the 70th minute mark. For all Fernandes has achieved during his 21 months with Manchester United, including 44 goals in 96 appearances, this period has brought chastening moments in a Portugal shirt. It's not quite really happened for him on the international stage. It says the 27-year-old was dropped when it mattered most at the European Championship this past summer after he was given the runaround by Germany's midfield in a 4-2 group stage loss. So not really happening for Bruno on the international stage. Now, I'm not particularly bothered about that. We've heard that loads of times with Manchester United players, where it's like, oh, he doesn't do it for his country. My main concern is what he does for his club. And Portugal, Bruno Fernandes' record, for his club is phenomenal. But we was hoping you'd get to see Bruno and Ronaldo sort of gel on the national stage or the international stage, and then bring that towards what they can do for Manchester United. It's not quite happened for them together with Portugal, as you see from the stats I've just mentioned there. So that's what the article is about, and just saying, can we get the best out of those two? Can those two, really gel? Would they work well together? Now, in theory, they should do, because they're both hugely talented. They don't really occupy the same space. Ronaldo's a bit more further forward than Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes is more in the 10, Ronaldo more in the 9, if you're going to sort of break it down into its basics. And obviously, both playing for the country should give them more opportunities to play together as well. Now they're playing for the club and the country together. You think it, on paper, would work. We've just not seen the best of it. We saw, obviously, a good start against Newcastle when obviously Ronaldo scored that brace and Bruno sort of scored that great goal as well. But other than that, it just seems to be fits and starts. We have seen moments Look at the Spurs game, that ball from Bruno Fernandes to Ronaldo. We saw it against Atalanta as well, little moments. There's just a thing, have they really quite got going? I'm not so sure. Get involved in the comments, let us know what you think. I think there might be a sort of case of you're expecting a lot more because of how talented they both are. Because like I mentioned there, you see it against Newcastle, you see it against Spurs, you seen it against Atalanta. They've worked well together. There's been moments with them. I think we're just looking for something a little bit more consistent. Let us know in the comments whether you think they are gelling, whether you think they will, or whether that's a concern, or are we looking at the wrong sort of problems of Manchester United, if you can even call it a problem. Are Bruno Fernandes and Ronaldo the least of our worries when you talk about the other issues we've got? Pinch Weasel says goal against Young Boys was good. Exactly. So there's like I say, there has been moments, and it's it's a question of, are we sort of over exaggerating the issues here about these two not gelling, or are we looking too much at what's going on with Portugal, which for most Manchester United fans, apart from the Portuguese ones, won't really matter that much, will it? It's more about what happens for United. And like I said earlier, in theory, you'd expect Bruno Fernandes and Cristiano Ronaldo to work well together. And we have seen that. Let's not kid ourselves. We've seen it. I think we just need to see it a little bit more consistently. Moving on. So Donny van de Beek, everyone's favourite topic. Donny van de Beek is, I say this all the time, I can't think of a player who's played fewer games and been spoken about more than Donny van de Beek at Manchester United. He's just been debated about, discussed, and argued over so much over the last 18 months, including on this channel. I'm not going to pretend we haven't been part of that. There's members of this channel, Macola, for example, who's fuming at the fact that Donny van de Beek hasn't had more game time, especially when you see some of the performances we've seen, especially this season, from some of our midfielders. And there's others who say, has he done enough? Has he really done enough to warrant that? Or is it a case of, he's not been given the chance to show what he's about? Maybe it's a mixture of both. Maybe it's somewhere in between. We saw against Manchester City, he came on the Stretford end. I was in the Stretford end, singing his name. Everyone was singing his name. Well, not everyone, a few were. Urging him to come on, urging Ollie to bring him on. He came on, gives the ball away. Phil Foden nearly scores. Then he does a little pirouette on the edge of his box. Everyone was loving. I mean, it was a bit of a mixed bag, wasn't it, to be honest with you? And you can't look too much into a 20-minute cameo against the Manchester City side, which had pretty much all of the ball. Didn't really tell us a lot. But the fact is that Donny van de Beek, no matter whether you love him or you don't, he hasn't been given a lot of opportunities. He isn't getting a lot of game time. And it looks like Newcastle, with all their sort of newfound funds, are ready to come in for him. It says, I think it's pretty much in all the papers this morning picking up on this idea that Newcastle are going to come in for him, and that he's a sort of ideal candidate for them. And he says it, got it in the Evening News. It says Manchester United's Donny van de Beek continues to be the subject of transfer speculation. Newcastle United, Everton and Wolves have all been credited with an interest in Van de Beek ahead of the reopening of the transfer window in January. Now, we paid 35 million quid for him 18 months ago. Haven't really seen the best of Donny van de Beek, have we? Would it make sense to let him go to Newcastle or anywhere else for that matter? You think Newcastle will be in pole position because of the money they've got, and he'd fit there, wouldn't he? He'd be a big addition to them, and I think that's the sort of signing they need to make, because I don't see Newcastle coming in and buying your Neymars and your Mbappes and your world-class superstars. Not going to get Lewandowski or anyone like that, are they? But they could come in and get someone like Donny van de Beek, who's a step forward for them, and then they sort of build up gradually, like what City did a few years ago when they came into all that money. Of course, they went out and bought several players of a certain calibre, and then sort of raised the bar a little bit with the next lot of signings. So could that be what we see at St James's with Donny van de Beek? Possibly. Chris Strather says Evening News must be true. It's not just the Evening News. That's just the one I picked up. I think the Independent have got it as well. I mean, it's one of those where you look at it and you think it makes a lot of sense, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. Ultimately, it's Manchester United's decision. He could say, I want to go, I want to leave, I've had enough. And then, United could say, well, tough, you're under contract, you're not going anywhere. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with this one. I mean, it does make a lot of sense, but that's not the be-all and end-all, is it? Just because something makes sense, especially at Manchester United. And it might be a case of United look at it and go, you know what, we're up against it here. We haven't got the luxury of letting players go, even players that aren't getting a lot of games, so you might have to stay. It also says, I think it's in the Mirror as well, the Mirror have got it, the Independent have got it, the Evening News have got it, that Newcastle have got a shortlist looking to spend around £50 million with Van de Beek, Jesse Lingard and Dean Henderson. on Newcastle's wish list. So it's not just Donny van der Beek, or he's the main one. There's also Dean Henderson and Jesse Lingard. Now, you imagine Dean Henderson, I presume, would be a loan move. I don't think we're going to sell him. Jesse Lingard, who's out of contract in the summer, he could maybe be a permanent deal. Again, though, because he's out of contract, could they get him on the cheap, sort of 15 million quid or something, because he's going to go in a few months for nothing. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. I mean, they could try and go for all three, I suppose. They've got the money to do that. Even if it is only 50 million, that might be enough to get, Henderson on loan, Lingard for around 15 million. And if the offer United similar to what we paid for Donny, who knows, maybe we'll take that. I'll get into some of the comments before we move on. Samsonot says, there's a chance we'll see Donny starting Pogba's absence. We could find out if he's worth it. Pogba, of course, out to the end of the season. So could we end up seeing Donny van der Beek be given more of a chance? He hasn't had a chance, really, has he? Even when Pogba's not been available, we haven't really seen Donny come in. He's had a few games. I think he started against Leicester twice last season, didn't he? He started against Watford in the Cup. My point with Donny van der Beek has always been, it's a bit of a mixture of both. It's like he's had limited chances. And the trouble is, when he's had those limited chances, he's not set the world alight. So then it's like, well, he's not done a lot. But then the counter-argument to that is, okay, but he hasn't had a run. Give him 4 or 5 games in the team, one after the other, and let's see fully what he's about. So I just don't think now Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's in a luxury, in a position where he can do that, where he can give him 4 or 5 games unless he's performing straight away. Because it seems to me like Ole's almost backs himself into a little bit of a corner where, it's every game's must win. You've got to beat Watford. You've got to beat Villarreal. Then you've got Chelsea and Arsenal. You've probably got to win all those games to keep your job. Maybe get away with a draw, perhaps, against Chelsea or Arsenal. But you've got to get some results. Even then, it might not be enough. We know that there's sort of talk of Brendan Rodgers coming to United. I think he's the bookies' favourite. Around evens. The odds are fluctuating slightly, but he's around evens to take over from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It's up to you whether you're happy with that one. Ex-Liverpool manager, of course, if that matters to you. The main concern with that is he good enough? Can he go up against the Tuchels, the Klopps, the Guardiolas? Some people think he can. We'll have to wait and see if it's even an option. Talk MU in the chat says, quality stream, quality channel, big up. Thanks for all your support. Ross Murphy says he's out to the new year. Pogba. Also, Pogba can sign, I think, a pre-agreement in the new year with foreign clubs. There's talk of Paul Pogba going back to Juve, maybe in the summer on a free. That would be quite remarkable, that wouldn't it? Remarkable. We get Pogba from Le Havre when he's a kid. He goes to Juve for nothing. We buy him back off Juve for 89 million quid, and then he goes back to Juve for nothing. I don't know how you turn that one. It doesn't look great from a Manchester United point of view, does it? That you're letting him go for free twice and spending 89 million quid on him to the same club as well. Really, it's a little bit embarrassing how there's been a lack of sort of foresight and planning there around Paul Pogba. Donny van der Beek, hot topic as always anyway. Chris says, Donny van der Beek wanders forward too much to play in the role we need. Yep. Is he the man that can fit in the 6th role that we need? Probably not. Steve Jones says, Jay, I think you were underplaying the relationship between Ronaldo and Bruno. They've been pretty much telepathic for United this season. I mentioned the goals that have come from that partnership. They have done well in fits and starts, and I don't think that's an issue, but there's been games where it hasn't worked for him. Now, again, though, is that their fault? Can you blame them for the results against the likes of Liverpool and City? They're probably not the issue, but let's not pretend that it's all been rosy consistently for Manchester United with those two. It hasn't. And again, you might look at it and go, okay, they're not getting the ball enough. That's not their fault. We need a stronger midfield behind them. All valid points. But especially on the international front, I think it's more of a case of they haven't gelled together. There's also a little bit of a question mark of whether Bruno's going to be knackered. He's played so much football over the past sort of 2 years. It is ridiculous the amount of games. Not just games, but game time he's played as well. If he's played a lot of games for his country, I know he's been subbed a lot, but he's still started a lot of games. He's played a lot for Manchester United, and there's been sort of times when he looks a little bit goosed. Peter Jackson says, I'll be glad when the Pogba circus is over. People just getting fed up, aren't they? Some people getting fed up with the Paul Pogba circus, as you call it. But whether you blame the player or not, there's always been some sort of thing with his agent, some rumours that he's going to be moved on. It's just one of those where it's not been all sunshine and rainbows, has it? Since Paul Pogba came to United. Obviously won a couple of trophies in his first season. Everything was looking great. We've had some really good performances, but there's been this sort of question mark about fitness, about consistency at times, and also the dramas that goes on with Mino Raiola as well, whether you blame Paul Pogba for that or not. Another story that's doing the rounds is Gary Neville. He says he doesn't recognise some of Manchester United stars on social media. He calls it vanilla sanitised messages. talking about the posts we get after a loss, I'm not a big fan of these posts. I wish we didn't see them. You know, it's the same old, innit? You know, we're hurting, we're disappointed. You know, we feel it like you do. We're determined to put things right. It's copy and paste job, probably literally, for a lot of them. I think we saw one. Did we see one? Bruno Fernandes' team posted the post that was meant for Martinelli or someone. So we know it's not literally the player sat down tweeting for most of these posts. And I think that Gary Neville was just saying, you know, it's sort of being counterproductive, and I'm with him on that one. I just don't think it does anyone any favours. I personally don't need to see a post from a player after a loss. I don't. I get it. I don't need to see Harry Maguire or whoever writing an essay saying, you know, we go again and all this sort of stuff. I'm not into it. Hit the like button. Give us a like in the stream. Let us know you're there as well. Get involved in the comments. Santa Notch says, are these social media posts forcibly directed by United's admin team though? I don't know if they're forcibly directed. I've no idea. Chris Strother says, think of the algorithms, Jay. Yeah, there was that story, wasn't there, where they sort of look at algorithms and they judge, the teams judge what sort of going to be a positive way of responding to what fans are saying and stuff, and jumping on that sort of the zeitgeist, if you will. I mean, it's all very sort of forensic. It's not really heartfelt, is it? And I think it's just all a bit pointless, personally. Just as well on these, well, it's not really social media front. It is a little bit. Marcus Rashford, don't want to get too political, but, you know, politics and Marcus Rashford, even though he's not political, it does kind of tie in with him because he affects the politicians in what he's been doing. He came in for a bit of stick, didn't he, from Tory MP. I think it was one of the Tory MPs, after he missed his penalty, told him he should stick to his day job. It's Natalie Elphick, one of the Tory MPs. She said a group chat message where she said he should stick to penalties and all that, stick to football, because he'd worked on the free school meals campaign, which he's just got an MBE for as well. And it turns out that she's actually got a second job, so maybe she should stick to her day job. So everyone's having a bit of fun with that and sort of pointing out the hypocrisy that goes on when you're criticising Marcus Rashford for not sticking to his day job when you're not doing the same yourself. Limerick Lad 2000, welcome to the Academy. Thanks for your support. We're going to have a bit of a debate coming up on Paul Pogba because he could be going back to Juve. We're going to talk about his impacts at Manchester United, whether we should be pushing out all the boats to keep him at Manchester United. Push the boat out, is that the right term? I don't know. Or whether, you know, it's time to just sort of let him get on. Thomas Mitchell says, how do you join the Academy? There's a join button under the videos there. You should be able to press join and become a member. We've got extra content there for our members as well. So make sure you're checking that out. Don't forget, if you're not doing, to subscribe to the channel as well. Make sure you're checking out all the other videos. Joe's done a great video looking at Brendan Rodgers, his impact, or not his impact, sorry, his impact at Leicester, what he's done as a manager, and whether he could come in at Manchester United. So go and have a look at that as well. We've also had a recent interview with Laurie Whitwell where he's talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and the pressure he's under. So make sure you're checking all those videos out. This has been Stretford Paddock Paper Talk. I've been Jay Motti. Thanks for watching.